Picture this: a ruler stands at the edge of a burning city, flames licking the sky, as whispers of betrayal and ambition swirl around him. Was this a calculated move to reshape an empire, or the reckless act of a leader consumed by power? This is just one of the countless moments in history where ancient leaders made decisions so controversial, they still spark debate centuries later. From empires rising and falling to alliances forged and broken, the choices of these leaders didn't just shape their own time, they echoed through the ages, leaving us with questions, mysteries, and lessons that still resonate today. In this video, we're diving into 25 of the most controversial decisions ever made by ancient leaders. You'll discover the stories behind their boldest moves, the consequences that followed, and the debates that historians still can't agree on. Whether it's a ruler who burned books to silence dissent or a conqueror who gambled everything on a daring march across mountains, these decisions will make you rethink what you know about power, ambition, and the weight of leadership. So, are you ready to step into the past and uncover the secrets behind history's most debated moments? Let's begin. Now, turning to the first controversial decision on our list, we delve into the infamous Great Fire of Rome and the role of Emperor Nero. In the year 64 AD, a catastrophic fire engulfed Rome, destroying much of the city and leaving its citizens in chaos. The flames raged for 6 days, consuming homes, temples, and public buildings, and the devastation was immense. But what made this event even more shocking were the rumors that swirled around Nero himself. Some claimed that the emperor had ordered the fire to clear space for his grand architectural projects, while others whispered that he stood atop a tower playing the fiddle as the city burned. The truth, however, is far more complex. Nero was actually away from Rome when the fire started, and upon hearing the news, he rushed back to organize relief efforts, opening his palaces to shelter the homeless and providing food for the survivors. Yet, despite his actions, the accusations against him persisted. To deflect blame, Nero pointed the finger at the Christians, a small and misunderstood group at the time. This led to a brutal persecution of Christians, many of whom were tortured and executed in horrifying ways. Historians still debate Nero's true motives. Was he a tyrant who used the fire to further his own ambitions, or a leader unfairly vilified by his enemies? The controversy surrounding Nero's role in the Great Fire of Rome remains one of history's most enduring mysteries, leaving us to wonder how much of his story is fact and how much is fiction. Now, turning to the second controversial decision on our list, we explore Cleopatra's bold alliance with Julius Caesar, a move that would forever alter the course of Egyptian and Roman history. In the year 48 BC, Cleopatra, the young queen of Egypt, found herself in a precarious position. Her brother and co-ruler, Ptolemy XIII, had driven her out of Alexandria, leaving her desperate to reclaim her throne. It was in this moment of crisis that Cleopatra made a daring decision: to seek the support of Julius Caesar, the most powerful man in Rome. Cleopatra's arrival in Alexandria was nothing short of dramatic. Legend has it that she had herself smuggled into Caesar's presence, rolled up in a carpet or a sack, to avoid detection by her brother's forces. This audacious act not only captured Caesar's attention, but also marked the beginning of a partnership that would change the political landscape of the ancient world. Cleopatra and Caesar formed a strategic alliance, one that was as much about personal ambition as it was about political survival. Their relationship, however, was far from conventional. It sparked scandal across Rome and Egypt, with many viewing it as a dangerous mingling of power and passion. The implications of this alliance were profound. With Caesar's military backing, Cleopatra defeated her brother and secured her position as the sole ruler of Egypt. In return, Caesar gained access to Egypt's vast wealth and resources, which he used to fund his campaigns and consolidate his power in Rome. But their partnership went beyond mere politics. Cleopatra bore Caesar a son, Ptolemy Caesar, known as Caesarion, further intertwining their fates. Yet this alliance also sowed the seeds of controversy. In Rome, Caesar's relationship with Cleopatra was seen as a threat to the Republic, fueling fears that he sought to establish a monarchy with Cleopatra as his queen. This tension contributed to the growing opposition that ultimately led to Caesar's assassination in 44 BC. For Cleopatra, the loss of her Roman ally was a devastating blow, but it was not the end of her story. She would later form another fateful alliance with Mark Antony, setting the stage for further drama and tragedy. Cleopatra's decision to align with Julius Caesar was a masterstroke of political cunning, but it also came at a cost. It reshaped Egypt's destiny, tying it ever closer to Rome, and left a legacy of intrigue and scandal that continues to captivate us today. Was Cleopatra a brilliant strategist who used every tool at her disposal to protect her kingdom, or was she a pawn in the larger game of Roman politics? The answer, like so much of her story, remains shrouded in mystery. Now turning to the third controversial decision on our list, we delve into the reign of Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China, and his infamous decision to burn books and bury scholars alive. This extreme measure, carried out in the late 3rd century BC, remains one of the most shocking acts of intellectual suppression in history. But what drove Qin Shi Huang to take such drastic action, and what were the consequences for Chinese culture and historical records? Qin Shi Huang's rise to power marked the unification of China under a single ruler for the first time. His vision was to create a centralized, authoritarian state, free from the influence of rival ideologies and regional loyalties. To achieve this, he sought to eliminate any ideas that challenged his authority or threatened the stability of his empire. The primary targets of his campaign were Confucian scholars, whose teachings emphasized moral governance and the importance of historical precedent, ideas that directly contradicted Qin Shi Huang's autocratic rule. The burning of books was a calculated move to erase dissenting voices. Historical records, philosophical texts, and poetry that did not align with the emperor's vision were systematically destroyed. Only texts related to practical subjects like agriculture, medicine, and divination were spared. This act was not merely about censorship. It was an attempt to rewrite history itself, ensuring that future generations would only know the narrative Qin Shi Huang wanted them to believe. But the emperor's campaign did not stop at burning books. Scholars who resisted or criticized his policies faced an even grimmer fate. Many were buried alive, a brutal punishment intended to silence intellectual dissent and instill fear among the population. The exact number of scholars executed remains debated, but the scale of the suppression was undeniably vast. This ruthless approach earned Qin Shi Huang a reputation as a tyrant, even as it solidified his control over the empire. The long-term consequences of these actions were profound. While Qin Shi Huang succeeded in consolidating power during his lifetime, his suppression of intellectual thought had a lasting impact on Chinese culture. The destruction of historical records created gaps in our understanding of early Chinese history, making it difficult to piece together the full story of this period. Additionally, the persecution of scholars stifled intellectual progress, delaying the development of ideas that might have otherwise flourished. Yet, Qin Shi Huang's actions also sparked a counter-reaction. After his death, the Han dynasty, which succeeded the Qin, sought to restore and preserve China's intellectual heritage. Confucianism, once suppressed, became the dominant philosophy of the Han and later dynasties, shaping Chinese society for centuries to come. In this way, Qin Shi Huang's attempt to erase history ultimately failed, as the resilience of ideas proved stronger than his efforts to destroy them. Qin Shi Huang's decision to burn books and bury scholars remains a stark reminder of the dangers of authoritarianism and the suppression of knowledge. Was it a necessary measure to maintain order in a newly unified empire, or an act of tyranny that sacrificed intellectual freedom for the sake of control? The debate continues, but one thing is certain: the legacy of Qin Shi Huang's actions continues to shape our understanding of power, history, and the enduring value of ideas. Now turning to the fourth controversial decision on our list, we explore Alexander the Great's ambitious attempt to unite his empire through a mass wedding at Susa in 324 BC. This event, often referred to as the Marriage of Susa, was a bold and unprecedented move aimed at blending the cultures of his Macedonian soldiers with the Persian nobility. But what motivated Alexander to orchestrate such a grand gesture, and why did it ultimately fail to achieve its intended purpose? Alexander's conquests had brought him to the heart of the Persian Empire, where he sought not only to conquer but also to integrate the diverse peoples under his rule. The mass wedding at Susa was a symbolic act designed to solidify alliances and create a sense of unity between his Macedonian officers and the Persian elite. Over 80 of his closest companions were married to noblewomen from prominent Persian families, with Alexander himself marrying Statara, the daughter of the former Persian king Darius III. The ceremony was lavish, reflecting Alexander's vision of a multicultural empire where East and West could coexist harmoniously. However, this decision was met with significant resistance from both sides. Many of Alexander's Macedonian officers viewed the marriages as a betrayal of their Greek heritage and a sign that their leader was becoming too influenced by Persian customs. They resented being forced into unions with women they saw as foreign and unfamiliar. On the other hand, the Persian nobility, while outwardly compliant, harbored their own reservations about the marriages, seeing them as a political maneuver rather than a genuine effort at unity. The cultural divide proved too great to overcome. Despite Alexander's efforts to promote integration, the marriages failed to foster the lasting bonds he had envisioned. After his death in 323 BC, most of the unions were dissolved, and the Macedonian officers returned to their previous lives, abandoning their Persian wives. The experiment at Susa, while bold and innovative, ultimately highlighted the challenges of merging two vastly different cultures under a single banner. Alexander's decision to organize the mass wedding at Susa remains a fascinating yet controversial chapter in his legacy. Was it a visionary attempt to create a unified empire or a misguided effort that underestimated the depth of cultural differences? The answer lies somewhere in between, but one thing is clear: Alexander's ambition to bridge East and West was ahead of its time, and the failure of the Susa weddings serves as a reminder of the complexities of cultural integration. As we move forward, we'll examine another leader whose decisions continue to spark debate and intrigue. Now turning to the fifth controversial decision on our list, we delve into one of the most bizarre episodes in Roman history: Caligula's so-called War on the Sea. In the year 39 AD, the Roman Emperor Caligula, known for his erratic behavior and extravagant whims, ordered his troops to march to the shores of the English Channel. There he declared war on the sea itself, commanding his soldiers to attack the waves with swords and collect seashells as spoils of war. This strange and seemingly nonsensical act has puzzled historians for centuries, leaving many to wonder what could have driven Caligula to such an extreme and theatrical display. One theory suggests that Caligula's war on the sea was a manifestation of his deteriorating mental state. By this point in his reign, Caligula had already exhibited signs of paranoia, cruelty, and megalomania, leading some to believe that his actions were the result of genuine instability. Declaring war on an unyielding force like the ocean could have been a desperate attempt to assert his dominance over nature itself, a reflection of his growing detachment from reality. Others argue that the act was a calculated piece of political satire, designed to mock the futility of war and the absurdity of military conquest. By ordering his soldiers to fight the sea, Caligula may have been making a pointed statement about the vanity of human ambition. Regardless of his motivations, the decision had a profound impact on Caligula's reputation. To his soldiers, the order was both humiliating and demoralizing. Marching to the coast and attacking the waves with swords was not only pointless but also a stark contrast to the disciplined and purposeful campaigns that had defined Rome's military history. For the Roman elite, the incident further cemented Caligula's image as a tyrant who prioritized his own whims over the stability and dignity of the empire. Even among the common people who had initially celebrated his rise to power, the war on the sea became a symbol of his excess and irrationality. Caligula's war on the sea remains one of the most enigmatic and debated episodes of his reign. Was it the act of a madman, a satirical commentary, or something else entirely? While the truth may never be fully known, the story serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked power and the fine line between genius and madness. As we continue our exploration of history's most controversial decisions, we'll next examine a leader whose bold choices reshaped the ancient world in ways that still resonate today. Now turning to the sixth controversial decision on our list, we explore one of the most daring military maneuvers in ancient history, Hannibal's crossing of the Alps. In the year 218 BC, the Carthaginian general Hannibal Barca made the audacious decision to lead his army, including dozens of war elephants, across the treacherous mountain range to launch a surprise attack on Rome. This bold move was not only unprecedented but also fraught with unimaginable risks, sparking centuries of debate over whether it was a stroke of genius or a reckless gamble. The logistical challenges of Hannibal's plan were staggering. The Alps were a natural fortress with steep cliffs, narrow passes, and unpredictable weather. Moving an army of tens of thousands of soldiers, along with horses, supplies, and elephants, through such terrain seemed almost impossible. The cold, snow, and altitude took a heavy toll on both men and animals, with many perishing from exhaustion, frostbite, or falls. The elephants, while a symbol of Carthaginian might, struggled to navigate the icy slopes, and their presence added an extra layer of complexity to the already perilous journey. Despite these hardships, Hannibal's decision to cross the Alps was driven by a clear strategic vision. By taking this unexpected route, he aimed to bypass Rome's defenses and strike directly at the heart of the Republic. The element of surprise was crucial, as it allowed Hannibal to catch the Romans off guard and gain a psychological advantage. His success in leading his army through the mountains and into Italy is often hailed as a testament to his leadership, ingenuity, and determination. However, the decision remains controversial. Some historians argue that the crossing was a reckless gamble that cost Hannibal dearly. The loss of men, animals, and supplies weakened his army, and the grueling journey left his troops exhausted before they even faced the Romans. Others contend that the crossing was a necessary risk, one that ultimately demonstrated Hannibal's brilliance as a military strategist. By defying the odds and achieving the seemingly impossible, Hannibal not only shocked Rome but also secured his place in history as one of the greatest commanders of all time. Hannibal's crossing of the Alps stands as a defining moment in the Second Punic War, a bold decision that continues to inspire awe and debate. Was it a calculated masterstroke or a desperate gamble? The answer may lie somewhere in between, but one thing is certain: Hannibal's audacity reshaped the course of history and left an indelible mark on the ancient world. As we move forward in our exploration of history's most controversial decisions, we'll next examine a leader whose choices forever altered the fate of the Roman Republic. Now turning to the seventh controversial decision on our list, we delve into one of the most pivotal moments in Roman history, Julius Caesar's crossing of the Rubicon River. In the year 49 BC, Caesar, then a general of the Roman Republic, made the fateful decision to lead his army across this small river in northern Italy, an act that would ignite a civil war and forever alter the course of Rome's destiny. This moment is so iconic that the phrase "crossing the Rubicon" has come to symbolize a point of no return, a decisive step that cannot be undone. The Rubicon River was more than just a geographical boundary. It was a legal and political line in the sand. Roman law forbade any general from bringing armed troops into Italy proper, as it was seen as a direct threat to the authority of the Senate. By crossing the Rubicon with his legions, Caesar was openly defying the Senate's orders and effectively declaring war on the Roman Republic itself. This was not a decision made lightly. Caesar knew the consequences would be severe, but he also understood that turning back would mean political ruin or worse. Caesar's crossing was driven by a combination of ambition, desperation, and a belief in his own destiny. After years of military conquests in Gaul, he had become a hero to the Roman people but a threat to the Senate, which feared his growing power. When the Senate ordered him to disband his army and return to Rome as a private citizen, Caesar faced a stark choice: submit and risk losing everything, or march on Rome and seize control. His famous words upon crossing the Rubicon, "The die is cast," reflect the irreversible nature of his decision and his willingness to gamble everything on his vision for Rome. The immediate aftermath of Caesar's crossing was chaos. The Roman Republic, already weakened by internal strife, plunged into civil war as Caesar's forces clashed with those loyal to the Senate. This conflict would ultimately lead to the end of the Republic and the rise of the Roman Empire under Caesar's adopted heir, Augustus. Caesar's decision to cross the Rubicon was not just a military maneuver. It was a political revolution that reshaped the structure of Roman governance and set the stage for centuries of imperial rule. Yet the crossing of the Rubicon remains controversial. Was Caesar a visionary leader who sought to reform a corrupt and crumbling republic, or was he a power-hungry dictator who placed his own ambitions above the stability of Rome? Historians continue to debate his motives, but one thing is clear: Caesar's decision to cross the Rubicon marked a turning point in history, a moment when the old order gave way to the new. As we continue our journey through history's most controversial decisions, we'll next explore a leader whose choices would redefine the spiritual landscape of an empire. Now turning to the eighth controversial decision on our list, we explore a moment of profound transformation in the life of Emperor Ashoka, one of ancient India's most influential rulers. After the brutal Kalinga War in the 3rd century BC, Ashoka made the startling decision to abandon his militaristic ways and embrace Buddhism, a choice that would redefine his reign and leave an indelible mark on history. But this decision was not without controversy. How could a ruler known for his ruthless conquest suddenly become a champion of peace and compassion? Let's delve into the story behind Ashoka's dramatic conversion and the debates it continues to inspire. The Kalinga War was a turning point for Ashoka. Located in modern-day Odisha, Kalinga was a prosperous and independent kingdom that resisted Ashoka's attempts to expand the Mauryan Empire. The conflict was one of the bloodiest in ancient Indian history, with hundreds of thousands of soldiers and civilians killed, wounded, or displaced. The sheer scale of the devastation is said to have deeply affected Ashoka. According to historical accounts, he was overcome with remorse as he surveyed the battlefield, realizing the human cost of his ambition. This moment of reflection led him to question the morality of his actions and seek a new path. Ashoka's decision to embrace Buddhism was both personal and political. On a personal level, he was drawn to the teachings of the Buddha, particularly the emphasis on nonviolence, compassion, and ethical living. He adopted these principles as his guiding philosophy, renouncing war and dedicating himself to the welfare of his people. Politically, his conversion served to unify his diverse empire under a shared moral framework. Ashoka promoted Buddhist values through edicts carved on rocks and pillars across his realm, encouraging his subjects to live harmoniously and respect all forms of life. However, Ashoka's sudden change of heart has sparked debate among historians. Was his conversion genuine, or was it a calculated move to consolidate power and repair his tarnished reputation? Some argue that his earlier conquests, including the brutal suppression of Caligula, contradict his later image as a benevolent ruler. Others point to the sincerity of his efforts to spread Buddhist teachings and improve the lives of his people, suggesting that his remorse was real and his transformation profound. Regardless of his motives, Ashoka's decision had far-reaching consequences, shaping the cultural and spiritual landscape of India and beyond. Ashoka's legacy is a complex one. While he is celebrated as a model of enlightened leadership, his earlier actions remind us of the ethical dilemmas faced by those in power. His story raises important questions about the nature of redemption and the possibility of change, even for those who have committed great wrongs. As we continue our exploration of history's most controversial decisions, we'll next examine a leader whose choices would redefine the religious identity of an entire empire. Now turning to the 9th controversial decision on our list, we examine a pivotal moment in the history of the Roman Empire, Constantine's Edict of Milan. In the year 313 AD, Emperor Constantine made the groundbreaking decision to legalize Christianity, a move that would forever alter the religious and political landscape of the ancient world. But what drove Constantine to issue this edict, and how did it shape the future of Christianity? Let's explore the motivations, implications, and controversies surrounding this historic decision. Constantine's Edict of Milan was not merely a religious decree, it was a calculated political maneuver. At the time, the Roman Empire was deeply divided, with rival emperors vying for control. Constantine, who had recently emerged victorious in a series of civil wars, sought to unify his fractured empire. By legalizing Christianity, he aimed to win the support of the growing Christian population, which had previously faced persecution under earlier rulers. The edict granted Christians the freedom to practice their faith openly and restored property that had been confiscated during periods of oppression. This move not only strengthened Constantine's political position, but also positioned him as a protector of religious freedom. However, Constantine's motivations were not purely political. According to historical accounts, he experienced a profound personal transformation that influenced his decision. The most famous of these accounts is the story of his vision before the Battle of Milvian Bridge in 312 AD. Constantine reportedly saw a cross in the sky accompanied by the words, "In this sign you shall conquer." Interpreting this as a divine message, he adopted the Christian symbol and attributed his subsequent victory to the Christian God. Whether this vision was genuine or a later embellishment, it underscores the complex interplay between faith and power in Constantine's life. The Edict of Milan had far-reaching consequences for the Roman Empire and the Christian faith. By ending centuries of persecution, it allowed Christianity to flourish, transforming it from a marginalized sect into a dominant religious force. Constantine's support for the Church extended beyond the edict. He funded the construction of grand basilicas, convened the Council of Nicaea to address theological disputes, and actively promoted Christian values within the empire. These actions laid the foundation for Christianity's eventual rise as the state religion of Rome. Yet, Constantine's decision remains controversial. Scholars debate whether his embrace of Christianity was driven by genuine faith or political pragmatism. Some argue that his personal beliefs were secondary to his desire for stability and control, pointing to his continued participation in pagan rituals even after the edict. Others highlight the sincerity of his efforts to promote Christian unity and his role in shaping early Christian doctrine. Regardless of his motives, Constantine's legacy is undeniable. His decision to legalize Christianity not only reshaped the Roman Empire but also set the stage for the global spread of the faith. As we reflect on Constantine's Edict of Milan, we are reminded of the profound impact that a single decision can have on history. Next, we'll delve into the story of a leader whose choices would challenge the very foundations of an empire and redefine the course of its future. Now turning to the 10th controversial decision on our list, we explore the story of Attila the Hun, a leader whose name became synonymous with fear and destruction. In the 5th century AD, Attila made the fateful decision to invade the Roman Empire, a move that would leave a lasting mark on history. But what drove Attila to launch this invasion, and how did his actions shape the fate of both the Huns and the Romans? Let's delve into the motivations, the devastation, and the enduring debate surrounding this infamous leader. Attila's decision to invade the Roman Empire was rooted in both ambition and necessity. By the mid-5th century, the Huns had established a powerful empire in Central Europe, but their nomadic lifestyle and reliance on plunder meant they needed constant resources to sustain their people. The Roman Empire, weakened by internal strife and external pressures, presented a tempting target. Attila saw an opportunity to expand his territory, secure wealth, and assert his dominance over a once mighty empire. His campaigns were marked by swift, brutal attacks that left cities in ruins and populations terrified. The sheer scale of destruction earned him the nickname, the Scourge of God, a title that reflected both the fear he inspired and the belief that his actions were divinely ordained. The devastation caused by Attila's invasion was immense. His armies swept through the Balkans, Gaul, and Italy, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. Cities were sacked, farmland was ravaged, and countless lives were lost. The Roman Empire, already struggling to maintain its borders, was pushed to the brink of collapse. Yet, despite the chaos he unleashed, Attila's campaigns were not without strategy. He exploited divisions within the Roman Empire, forming alliances with disgruntled factions and using diplomacy as well as force to achieve his goals. His ability to adapt his tactics to different situations showcased his skill as a military leader. The debate over Attila's legacy continues to this day. Was he a ruthless conqueror driven by greed and a thirst for power, or was he a strategic leader defending his people and securing their survival? Some historians argue that Attila's actions were a response to the pressures of leading a nomadic empire in a time of scarcity. Others view him as a brutal opportunist who capitalized on the weaknesses of others. What is clear is that Attila's invasion of the Roman Empire marked a turning point in the history of both the Huns and the Romans. His campaigns accelerated the decline of the Western Roman Empire and reshaped the political landscape of Europe. As we reflect on Attila's decision to invade the Roman Empire, we are reminded of the complex interplay between ambition, necessity, and legacy. His story challenges us to consider the fine line between conquest and survival, and the ways in which leaders are remembered by history. Next, we'll examine another pivotal moment in ancient history, one that would redefine the relationship between two great powers. Now turning to the 11th controversial decision on our list, we examine the story of Ramses II, one of ancient Egypt's most celebrated pharaohs. After the Battle of Kadesh, a fierce and inconclusive clash with the Hittites, Ramses made the surprising decision to sign a peace treaty with his former enemies. This agreement, known as the Treaty of Kadesh, is often hailed as one of the earliest recorded peace agreements in history. But was this treaty a triumph of diplomacy or a reluctant compromise? Let's explore the context, the significance, and the debate surrounding this pivotal moment. The Battle of Kadesh, fought around 1274 BC, was a monumental clash between two of the ancient world's superpowers, Egypt and the Hittite Empire. Both sides sought control over the strategic region of Syria, and the battle ended in a stalemate, with neither side achieving a decisive victory. In the years that followed, Ramses II faced mounting pressures, including threats from other rivals and the strain of maintaining a vast empire. Recognizing the futility of continued conflict, he chose to negotiate a peace treaty with the Hittite king, Hattusili III. This decision marked a significant shift from warfare to diplomacy, a rare move in an era dominated by conquest. The Treaty of Kadesh was groundbreaking in its scope and detail. It included clauses on mutual defense, the extradition of fugitives, and the establishment of peaceful relations between the two empires. The treaty was inscribed in both Egyptian hieroglyphs and Hittite cuneiform, a testament to its importance and the effort to ensure its terms were understood by both sides. For Ramses, the treaty allowed him to secure his northern borders and focus on other priorities, such as monumental building projects that would cement his legacy as a great pharaoh. For the Hittites, it provided stability and protection against potential threats from other powers. However, the treaty has sparked controversy among historians. Some argue that it was a diplomatic victory for Ramses, showcasing his ability to negotiate peace and maintain Egypt's dominance. Others view it as a compromise, a recognition that neither side could achieve outright victory and that continued conflict would only weaken both empires. The treaty's language, which refers to both rulers as equals, has led some to question whether Ramses truly achieved the upper hand or if he was forced to accept a more balanced agreement. The significance of the Treaty of Kadesh extends far beyond its immediate impact. It represents a turning point in the history of international relations, demonstrating that even the most bitter rivals could find common ground through diplomacy. For Ramses II, the treaty became a cornerstone of his reign, allowing him to project an image of peace and stability even as he continued to expand his influence. Yet, the debate over whether it was a victory or a compromise reminds us that history is often shaped by interpretation as much as by events. As we reflect on Ramses' decision to sign the Treaty of Kadesh, we are reminded of the enduring power of diplomacy in resolving conflicts. His story challenges us to consider the complexities of leadership and the ways in which peace can be as transformative as war. Next, we'll explore another momentous decision, one that would test the limits of ambition and strategy in the ancient world. Now turning to the 12th controversial decision on our list, we delve into the story of Xerxes, the Persian king whose ambition led to one of the most infamous invasions in ancient history. Xerxes' decision to invade Greece in 480 BC was a bold and audacious move, driven by a desire to avenge his father Darius' defeat at the Battle of Marathon and to expand the Persian Empire's reach into Europe. However, this campaign would prove to be a turning point not just for Xerxes but for the balance of power in the ancient world. The invasion began with a show of overwhelming force. Xerxes assembled one of the largest armies and navies ever seen, with estimates suggesting hundreds of thousands of soldiers and over 1,000 ships. His goal was clear: to crush the Greek city-states and bring them under Persian control. The campaign initially seemed unstoppable, with the Persians sweeping through northern Greece and forcing many cities to submit. However, the Greeks, though divided, were determined to resist. The stage was set for two of the most iconic battles in history, Thermopylae and Salamis. At Thermopylae, a narrow mountain pass, a small force of Greek warriors, led by the Spartan king Leonidas, made a legendary stand against the Persian army. Though vastly outnumbered, the Greeks held their ground for several days, inflicting heavy casualties on the Persians. Xerxes' forces eventually broke through, but the delay proved costly, both in terms of time and morale. The battle became a symbol of Greek resistance and the power of disciplined, determined fighters against overwhelming odds. The next major clash came at Salamis, where the Greek fleet, led by the Athenian commander Themistocles, lured the Persian navy into a narrow strait. The confined space neutralized the Persians' numerical advantage, and the Greeks used their superior knowledge of the waters to devastating effect. The Persian fleet was decimated, and Xerxes, realizing the precariousness of his position, retreated to Asia, leaving a portion of his army behind to continue the campaign. Xerxes' invasion of Greece is often criticized for its strategic errors. His reliance on sheer numbers rather than tactical ingenuity, his underestimation of Greek resilience, and his failure to adapt to the challenges of the terrain all contributed to his ultimate failure. The campaign also exposed the limits of Persian power and the difficulties of maintaining control over distant territories. For the Greeks, the victories at Thermopylae and Salamis became defining moments, uniting the city-states and laying the foundation for the rise of classical Greek civilization. The long-term consequences of Xerxes' decision were profound. The failed invasion weakened the Persian Empire's prestige and emboldened its enemies. It also marked the beginning of a shift in power from the east to the west, as Greece emerged as a dominant force in the Mediterranean. For Xerxes, the campaign was a humbling experience, one that tarnished his legacy and raised questions about his leadership. Was his decision to invade Greece a reckless gamble, or was it a calculated risk that simply didn't pay off? The debate continues to this day. As we reflect on Xerxes' invasion of Greece, we are reminded of the fine line between ambition and overreach. His story serves as a cautionary tale about the challenges of leadership and the unpredictable nature of war. Next, we'll explore another momentous decision, one that would test the resolve and courage of a leader facing overwhelming odds. Now turning to the 13th controversial decision on our list, we shift our focus to Boudica, the fierce queen of the Iceni tribe, whose decision to lead a revolt against Roman rule in Britain remains one of the most dramatic and debated moments in ancient history. Boudica's rebellion, which took place around 60 AD, was born out of a deep sense of injustice and a desire to reclaim her people's freedom from the oppressive grip of the Roman Empire. The spark that ignited Boudica's revolt was the brutal treatment she and her family endured at the hands of the Romans. After the death of her husband, King Prasutagus, who had been a Roman ally, the Romans seized the Iceni lands, flogged Boudica, and subjected her daughters to unspeakable violence. This humiliation, coupled with the heavy taxes and exploitation imposed on the Britons, drove Boudica to take up arms. She rallied not only her own tribe but also other disaffected groups, uniting them under a common cause to expel the Romans from Britain. Boudica's forces launched a series of devastating attacks on Roman settlements, including the cities of Camulogenum, Londinium, and Verulamium. These cities were razed to the ground, and thousands of Romans and their allies were killed. The rebellion was marked by its ferocity, with Boudica's warriors employing brutal tactics to strike fear into the hearts of their enemies. The Romans, in turn, responded with equal ruthlessness, determined to crush the uprising and reassert their dominance. The climax of the revolt came at the Battle of Watling Street, where the Roman governor, Gaius Suetonius Paulinus, faced Boudica's forces with a much smaller but highly disciplined army. Despite their numerical disadvantage, the Romans used superior tactics and terrain to their advantage, decisively defeating Boudica's forces. The aftermath was catastrophic for the Britons, with tens of thousands killed and the rebellion effectively crushed. Boudica herself is said to have died shortly after the battle, though the exact circumstances of her death remain shrouded in mystery. Boudica's revolt raises important questions about the nature of resistance and the cost of freedom. Was her decision to rebel a justified response to Roman oppression, or was it a reckless act that brought unnecessary suffering to her people? Some view her as a heroic figure, a symbol of defiance against tyranny, while others argue that her actions ultimately led to greater hardship for the Britons. The debate over her legacy continues to this day, reflecting the complexities of leadership and the moral dilemmas faced by those who challenge powerful empires. As we reflect on Boudica's revolt, we are reminded of the enduring human spirit and the lengths to which people will go to fight for their dignity and autonomy. Her story is a testament to the power of resistance, even in the face of overwhelming odds. Next, we'll explore another pivotal decision, one that would shape the destiny of an empire and its people. Now turning to the 14th controversial decision on our list, we delve into the ambitious and contentious campaign led by Emperor Justinian I to reconquer the Western Roman Empire. This decision, made in the 6th century, was driven by Justinian's vision of restoring the glory of the Roman Empire to its former extent, reuniting the eastern and western halves under his rule. However, this grand endeavor came at a tremendous cost and sparked intense debate over its necessity and long-term consequences. Justinian's reconquest began with the appointment of his brilliant general, Belisarius, who led campaigns to reclaim territories that had been lost to barbarian kingdoms. The most notable victories included the recapture of North Africa from the Vandals and Italy from the Ostrogoths. These successes initially seemed to validate Justinian's vision, as the Byzantine Empire expanded its influence and reasserted its dominance over regions that had once been the heart of Roman power. However, the campaign was far from straightforward. The reconquest of Italy, in particular, proved to be a protracted and bloody conflict lasting nearly 2 decades. The Ostrogoths fiercely resisted Byzantine forces, leading to widespread devastation across the Italian peninsula. Cities were sacked, populations displaced, and the once thriving urban centers of Roman civilization were left in ruins. The human and economic toll of the war was staggering, raising questions about whether the benefits of reconquest outweighed the costs. Critics of Justinian's decision argue that the campaign was a costly overreach, draining the Byzantine Empire's resources and leaving it vulnerable to external threats. The immense financial burden of funding the wars, coupled with the loss of manpower, weakened the empire's ability to defend its eastern borders against the rising power of the Persian Empire. Additionally, the prolonged conflict in Italy created instability in the region, making it difficult for the Byzantines to maintain control over their newly reclaimed territories. Supporters, on the other hand, view Justinian's reconquest as a bold and necessary effort to restore Roman unity and prestige. They argue that the campaign demonstrated the Byzantine Empire's military prowess and reaffirmed its role as the heir to Rome's legacy. The reconquest also had cultural and religious implications, as it brought regions under Byzantine influence back into the fold of Orthodox Christianity. The controversy surrounding Justinian's decision lies in its mixed legacy. While the reconquest temporarily expanded the Byzantine Empire's borders, it also sowed the seeds of future decline. The strain on resources and the empire's overextension left it ill-prepared to face the challenges of the 7th century, including the rise of Islam and the Arab conquests. Justinian's dream of a reunited Roman Empire ultimately proved unsustainable, raising questions about the wisdom of prioritizing territorial expansion over internal stability. As we examine Justinian's reconquest, we are reminded of the delicate balance between ambition and pragmatism in leadership. His decision to reclaim the Western Roman Empire was a bold gamble, one that continues to spark debate among historians about its necessity and impact. Next, we'll explore another pivotal moment in history, one that would test the limits of leadership and reshape the course of an empire. Now turning to the 15th controversial decision on our list, we explore the ruthless yet highly effective strategies of Genghis Khan, the founder of the Mongol Empire. Genghis Khan's decision to employ psychological warfare as a central tool of conquest remains one of the most debated aspects of his leadership. His tactics, which included the use of terror, propaganda, and calculated brutality, were instrumental in building one of the largest empires in history, but they also raise profound ethical questions about the cost of such methods. Genghis Khan understood the power of fear as a weapon. Before engaging in battle, he often sent emissaries to enemy cities, demanding surrender and offering terms of peace. However, these offers came with a grim warning: resistance would result in total annihilation. This strategy was not merely a bluff. Cities that defied the Mongols often faced horrific consequences, with entire populations slaughtered and cities razed to the ground. The stories of these massacres spread quickly, creating a climate of fear that led many cities to surrender without a fight. This psychological manipulation allowed Genghis Khan to expand his empire with remarkable speed, often avoiding prolonged and costly sieges. In addition to terror, Genghis Khan used propaganda to solidify his rule and demoralize his enemies. He portrayed himself as a divinely chosen leader, destined to unite the world under Mongol rule. This narrative was reinforced through carefully crafted messages spread by spies and defectors that emphasized the inevitability of Mongol victory. By presenting his conquests as part of a larger cosmic order, Genghis Khan undermined the morale of his enemies and bolstered the loyalty of his own troops. The effectiveness of these tactics is undeniable. Under Genghis Khan's leadership, the Mongol Empire grew to encompass vast territories, stretching from Eastern Europe to the Sea of Japan. His use of psychological warfare not only facilitated rapid conquests, but also helped maintain control over diverse and often rebellious populations. The fear of Mongol retribution kept conquered peoples in line, while the promise of protection and prosperity under Mongol rule encouraged cooperation. However, the ethical implications of Genghis Khan's methods are deeply troubling. The deliberate use of terror and violence against civilian populations raises questions about the morality of his leadership. Critics argue that his tactics were unnecessarily brutal and that the human cost of his conquests was too high. The widespread destruction and loss of life caused by his campaigns left lasting scars on the regions he conquered, with some areas taking centuries to recover. Supporters, on the other hand, contend that Genghis Khan's methods were a product of their time, reflecting the harsh realities of medieval warfare. They argue that his use of psychological warfare was a pragmatic response to the challenges of uniting disparate tribes and conquering vast territories. Without these tactics, they claim, the Mongol Empire might never have achieved its historic scale or influence. The controversy surrounding Genghis Khan's use of psychological warfare lies in its dual legacy. On one hand, it was a key factor in the creation of one of the most powerful empires in history. On the other hand, it came at a tremendous human cost, raising questions about the ethics of such methods. As we reflect on Genghis Khan's decision, we are reminded of the complex interplay between power, morality, and leadership in shaping the course of history. Next, we'll examine another pivotal moment that tested the limits of leadership and reshaped the destiny of an empire. Now turning to the 16th controversial decision on our list, we delve into the ambitious campaign of Suleiman the Magnificent, one of the most renowned rulers of the Ottoman Empire. In 1529, Suleiman made the bold decision to lay siege to Vienna, a move that would test the limits of Ottoman power and reshape the course of European history. This decision, driven by both strategic ambition and religious fervor, remains one of the most debated moments of his reign. Suleiman's primary goal in besieging Vienna was to expand Ottoman influence deeper into Europe and weaken the Holy Roman Empire, a major rival. Vienna, as a key city in Central Europe, represented a strategic prize. Its capture would have opened the door for further Ottoman advances into the heart of the continent. Additionally, the campaign was framed as a holy mission, with Suleiman positioning himself as a defender of Islam against Christian powers. This religious dimension added a layer of ideological motivation to the military objectives. However, the siege of Vienna was far from straightforward. Suleiman's army faced significant logistical challenges, including the long march from Constantinople to Vienna, which stretched their supply lines thin. The Ottoman forces, though formidable, were also hampered by unfavorable weather conditions. Heavy rains turned the roads into mud, slowing their progress and making it difficult to transport heavy siege equipment. By the time they reached Vienna, the Ottomans were already at a disadvantage, with their troops exhausted and their supplies dwindling. The defenders of Vienna, led by Count Nicholas Salm, were well prepared for the siege. They had fortified the city's walls and stockpiled resources, determined to resist the Ottoman advance. The arrival of reinforcements from other European states further bolstered their position. Despite repeated assaults, Suleiman's forces were unable to breach Vienna's defenses. After several weeks of intense fighting, the Ottomans were forced to retreat, marking a significant setback for Suleiman's campaign. The failure to capture Vienna sparked intense debate about the decision to launch the siege. Some historians argue that it marked the peak of Ottoman expansion, demonstrating the empire's ambition and military prowess. Others view it as the beginning of a decline, highlighting the logistical and strategic limitations that would hinder future campaigns. The siege exposed the challenges of maintaining such a vast empire, particularly when attempting to project power over long distances. Critics of Suleiman's decision point to the high cost of the campaign, both in terms of resources and human lives. The retreat from Vienna damaged Ottoman morale and emboldened their European adversaries. Supporters, however, argue that the siege was a calculated risk, reflecting Suleiman's vision of a unified Islamic empire. They contend that while the campaign did not achieve its immediate goals, it demonstrated the Ottomans' ability to challenge Europe's most powerful states. The controversy surrounding Suleiman's siege of Vienna lies in its dual legacy. On one hand, it showcased the ambition and reach of the Ottoman Empire at its height. On the other hand, it revealed the vulnerabilities and limitations of even the most powerful empires. As we reflect on this pivotal moment, we are reminded of the complexities of leadership and the high stakes of military decision-making. Next, we'll explore another chapter in the annals of history, where ambition and strategy collided to shape the fate of nations. Now turning to the 17th controversial decision on our list, we examine the fateful choice made by Montezuma, the Aztec emperor, when he welcomed Hernán Cortés and the Spanish conquistadors into the heart of his empire, Tenochtitlan. This decision, steeped in cultural misunderstandings and political intrigue, remains one of the most debated moments in the history of the Americas. Montezuma's initial response to Cortés was shaped by a combination of fear, curiosity, and religious belief. According to Aztec tradition, the god Quetzalcoatl was prophesied to return from the east, and some accounts suggest that Montezuma may have believed Cortés to be this divine figure. This belief, whether genuine or a product of later myth-making, influenced Montezuma's decision to treat the Spanish as honored guests rather than invaders. He offered them lavish gifts and allowed them to enter Tenochtitlan, a city of unparalleled grandeur and sophistication. However, this hospitality quickly turned into a strategic blunder. Cortés and his men, far from being benevolent visitors, had come with the intent of conquest. They exploited Montezuma's trust, using him as a puppet to control the Aztec Empire. Montezuma's decision to welcome the Spanish was further complicated by the political divisions within his empire. Many of his subjects, including powerful nobles and warriors, viewed his actions as a betrayal of Aztec sovereignty. This internal dissent weakened the empire's ability to resist the Spanish incursion. The cultural misunderstandings between the Aztecs and the Spanish also played a significant role in the unfolding tragedy. The Aztecs, with their complex religious and social systems, struggled to comprehend the motives of the Spanish, who saw them as heathens to be converted or conquered. Cortés, on the other hand, misinterpreted Aztec rituals and customs, often viewing them through a lens of suspicion and hostility. These miscommunications fueled tensions and ultimately led to violent confrontations. The political consequences of Montezuma's decision were catastrophic. By the time the Aztecs realized the true intentions of the Spanish, it was too late. Cortés and his allies, including rival indigenous groups who resented Aztec dominance, launched a brutal campaign that culminated in the fall of Tenochtitlan. Montezuma himself became a tragic figure, caught between his people's expectations and the overwhelming force of the Spanish. His death, whether at the hands of his own subjects or the Spanish, remains shrouded in controversy. Historians continue to debate whether Montezuma's actions hastened the fall of the Aztec Empire. Some argue that his initial hospitality gave the Spanish a critical foothold, making resistance more difficult. Others contend that the empire's collapse was inevitable, given the technological and tactical advantages of the Spanish, as well as the internal divisions within the Aztec world. Regardless of the interpretation, Montezuma's decision stands as a poignant reminder of the complexities of leadership in the face of unprecedented challenges. As we reflect on this pivotal moment, we are reminded of the profound impact of cultural misunderstandings and the high stakes of political decision-making. Next, we'll explore another chapter in the annals of history, where ambition and strategy collided to shape the fate of nations. Now turning to the 18th controversial decision on our list, we delve into the radical religious revolution initiated by Akhenaten, the pharaoh who dared to challenge the very foundations of ancient Egyptian belief. Akhenaten's decision to abandon the traditional polytheistic worship of Egypt's many gods and instead elevate Aten, the sun disk, as the sole deity, remains one of the most dramatic and debated shifts in religious history. Akhenaten's motivations for this sweeping change have long been a subject of controversy. Some historians argue that his decision was driven by a genuine spiritual awakening, a belief that Aten represented the ultimate source of life and light. Others suggest that it was a calculated political move aimed at consolidating power by undermining the influence of the powerful priesthood of Ammon, who had grown wealthy and influential through their control of traditional religious practices. Whatever his reasons, Akhenaten's reforms were nothing short of revolutionary. He declared Aten the supreme god, closed temples dedicated to other deities, and even moved the capital of Egypt to a new city, Akhetaten, dedicated entirely to the worship of Aten. The impact of Akhenaten's religious revolution on Egyptian society was profound and far-reaching. For centuries, the polytheistic traditions of Egypt had been deeply woven into the fabric of daily life, influencing everything from agriculture to governance. By rejecting these traditions, Akhenaten disrupted the social and cultural order. The priesthood, which had long served as a stabilizing force, found itself sidelined, while ordinary Egyptians struggled to adapt to the new religious paradigm. Art and architecture also underwent dramatic changes, with Akhenaten promoting a more naturalistic style that emphasized the rays of Aten and the pharaoh's unique relationship with the divine. However, Akhenaten's reforms were not universally embraced. Many Egyptians viewed his actions as heretical and destabilizing. The abrupt shift away from traditional gods like Ammon, Osiris, and Isis left a spiritual void that many found difficult to reconcile. Resistance to his reforms grew, both among the elite and the general population. This discontent was further fueled by the economic strain caused by the construction of Akhetaten and the redirection of resources away from established religious centers. After Akhenaten's death, his religious revolution was swiftly reversed. His successors, most notably his son Tutankhamun, worked to restore the old gods and traditions, dismantling the cult of Aten and erasing much of Akhenaten's legacy. Temples to Aten were abandoned, and Akhenaten's name was often omitted from official records, a practice known as damnatio memoriae. This reversal has led some to view Akhenaten as a failed reformer, while others see him as a visionary whose ideas were simply ahead of his time. The controversy surrounding Akhenaten's decision continues to captivate historians and scholars. Was he a revolutionary thinker who sought to unify Egypt under a single divine principle, or was he a tyrant who imposed his will on a reluctant populace? The answer may lie somewhere in between, but what is clear is that Akhenaten's religious revolution left an indelible mark on Egyptian history, challenging the status quo and reshaping the spiritual landscape of one of the world's greatest civilizations. As we reflect on Akhenaten's bold and controversial choices, we are reminded of the delicate balance between innovation and tradition, and the enduring power of belief to shape the course of history. Next, we'll explore another pivotal moment where ambition and strategy collided to alter the fate of nations. Now turning to the 19th controversial decision on our list, we examine Darius I's fateful choice to invade Greece, a move that would culminate in the legendary Battle of Marathon. This decision, driven by a mix of ambition, strategy, and a desire to expand the Persian Empire, remains one of the most debated military campaigns in ancient history. Darius I, ruler of the vast Persian Empire, saw Greece as a natural target for expansion. The Greek city-states, though culturally advanced, were politically fragmented, making them appear vulnerable to a powerful and centralized empire like Persia. Darius's decision to invade was also influenced by the Ionian Revolt, a rebellion of Greek cities in Asia Minor against Persian rule. The revolt, though ultimately crushed, had exposed the tensions between Persian authority and Greek independence, and Darius sought to assert his dominance over the region once and for all. The strategic reasoning behind Darius's invasion was multifaceted. By conquering Greece, he aimed to secure the western frontier of his empire, eliminate potential threats from rebellious Greek cities, and gain access to the wealth and resources of the Aegean. Additionally, subduing Greece would serve as a warning to other regions under Persian control, reinforcing the empire's might and deterring further uprisings. However, the execution of this plan proved far more challenging than Darius anticipated. The invasion began in 492 BCE, with Persian forces advancing through Thrace and Macedonia before setting their sights on mainland Greece. The campaign reached its climax at the Battle of Marathon in 490 BCE, where a vastly outnumbered Athenian army achieved a stunning victory against the Persian forces. The Athenians, led by the general Miltiades, employed innovative tactics, including a surprise charge that caught the Persians off guard. This decisive battle not only halted the Persian advance, but also became a symbol of Greek resilience and unity. The controversy surrounding Darius's decision lies in its execution and aftermath. Critics argue that the invasion was poorly planned, with insufficient attention paid to the logistical challenges of campaigning in unfamiliar terrain. The Persian army, though formidable, struggled to adapt to the rugged landscape of Greece and the guerrilla-style tactics employed by the Greeks. Furthermore, the defeat at Marathon exposed the limits of Persian military power and emboldened the Greek city-states to resist further incursions. The long-term consequences of Darius's invasion were profound. For the Persian Empire, the failed campaign marked the beginning of a prolonged struggle with Greece, culminating in the more famous invasions led by his son Xerxes. For the Greeks, the victory at Marathon became a source of immense pride and a rallying cry for future conflicts, including the Greco-Persian Wars. The battle also solidified Athens' reputation as a military power and laid the groundwork for its eventual dominance in the region. Darius's decision to invade Greece remains a subject of intense debate among historians. Was it a bold but flawed attempt to expand his empire, or a miscalculation that underestimated the resolve of the Greek city-states? Whatever the answer, the invasion and its aftermath underscore the complexities of military strategy and the unpredictable nature of history. As we move forward, we'll explore another pivotal moment where ambition and consequence collide, shaping the course of ancient civilizations. Now turning to the 20th controversial decision on our list, we delve into Charlemagne's decision to forcibly convert the Saxons to Christianity during his military campaigns. This choice, driven by a combination of religious zeal and political ambition, remains one of the most contentious aspects of his reign as King of the Franks and later as the first Holy Roman Emperor. Charlemagne, often hailed as the Father of Europe, sought to unify his vast empire under a single faith, Christianity. The Saxons, a pagan people inhabiting what is now northern Germany, were seen as both a spiritual and political obstacle to this vision. Charlemagne believed that converting them to Christianity would not only save their souls but also solidify his control over the region. However, his methods were far from peaceful. Over the course of more than 3 decades, from 772 to 804 CE, Charlemagne waged a brutal campaign against the Saxons, combining military conquest with forced conversions. The ethical implications of Charlemagne's actions are deeply troubling. His policy, known as the Capitulatio de Partibus Saxoniae, imposed harsh penalties on those who resisted conversion, including death for practicing pagan rituals or refusing baptism. Entire communities were uprooted, and those who resisted were often massacred or enslaved. This approach sparked widespread resistance among the Saxons, who fiercely defended their traditions and way of life. The most notable figure of this resistance was Widukind, a Saxon leader who led multiple revolts against Frankish rule, only to eventually submit and convert to Christianity under pressure. The controversy surrounding Charlemagne's decision lies in its dual motivations. Was this a genuine effort to spread Christianity, or was it primarily a political strategy to consolidate power? Some historians argue that Charlemagne's actions were driven by a sincere belief in the moral superiority of Christianity and a desire to create a unified Christian empire. Others contend that the forced conversions were a tool of subjugation, designed to crush dissent and integrate the Saxons into his expanding realm. The blending of religious and political goals makes it difficult to disentangle his true intentions. The long-term consequences of Charlemagne's policy were significant. While it succeeded in Christianizing the Saxons, it also left a legacy of resentment and cultural erasure. The violent methods used to achieve this goal have been criticized as antithetical to the principles of the faith he sought to spread. Moreover, the forced conversions set a precedent for the use of religion as a tool of empire building, influencing later medieval rulers and their approaches to conquest and conversion. Charlemagne's decision to forcibly convert the Saxons remains a subject of intense debate. Was it a necessary step in the creation of a unified Christian Europe, or a morally indefensible act of coercion? As we reflect on this controversial chapter, we are reminded of the complex interplay between faith, power, and the human cost of empire. Moving forward, we'll explore another pivotal moment where ambition and consequence collide, shaping the course of ancient civilizations. Now turning to the 21st controversial decision on our list, we examine Nero's decision to blame Christians for the Great Fire of Rome and his subsequent persecution of them. This moment in history is one of the most infamous examples of scapegoating and its devastating consequences, shedding light on the precarious position of early Christians in the Roman Empire. The Great Fire of Rome in 64 CE was a catastrophic event that destroyed much of the city, leaving thousands homeless and sparking widespread panic. In the aftermath, rumors began to circulate that Nero himself had ordered the fire to clear space for his grand architectural projects, including his lavish Domus Aurea or Golden House. Facing public outrage and desperate to deflect blame, Nero turned his attention to the Christians, a small but growing religious minority in Rome. Christians were already viewed with suspicion by many Romans due to their refusal to worship the traditional gods and their secretive gatherings, making them an easy target. Nero's persecution of Christians was both brutal and systematic. He accused them of arson and treason, subjecting them to horrific punishments. Many were crucified, burned alive as human torches to illuminate Nero's gardens, or torn apart by wild animals in the arena for public entertainment. These acts of cruelty were not only meant to punish the Christians, but also to serve as a warning to others who might challenge Roman authority or traditions. The persecution marked one of the first state-sponsored campaigns against Christians, setting a dangerous precedent for centuries to come. The controversy surrounding Nero's motives is complex. Some historians argue that his actions were purely political, aimed at quelling public unrest and consolidating his power. Others suggest that Nero's personal animosity toward Christians, fueled by their refusal to acknowledge him as divine, played a significant role. Regardless of his motivations, the persecution had a profound impact on early Christianity. While it instilled fear among believers, it also strengthened their resolve and sense of identity as a persecuted community. The martyrdom of early Christians became a powerful symbol of faith and resistance, inspiring future generations. The long-term consequences of Nero's decision were far-reaching. His persecution marked the beginning of a tumultuous relationship between the Roman state and Christianity, one that would oscillate between tolerance and hostility for centuries. It also contributed to the spread of Christianity, as the stories of martyrs and their unwavering faith attracted new converts. By the time Christianity was legalized under Constantine in the 4th century, it had grown from a marginalized sect to a dominant force in the Roman world. Nero's decision to persecute Christians remains a stark reminder of the dangers of scapegoating and the abuse of power. Was it a calculated move to preserve his rule, or an act of personal vengeance against a misunderstood group? As we reflect on this dark chapter, we are reminded of the resilience of those who endured persecution and the enduring impact of their faith. Moving forward, we'll explore another pivotal moment where leadership and morality collide, shaping the course of history. Now turning to the 22nd controversial decision on our list, we delve into the remarkable policies of Cyrus the Great, the founder of the Persian Empire, and his decision to adopt a policy of tolerance toward conquered peoples. This approach, immortalized in the Cyrus Cylinder, has sparked centuries of debate over whether it was a genuine commitment to human rights or a pragmatic strategy for empire building. Cyrus the Great, who ruled in the 6th century BCE, is often celebrated as one of history's most enlightened leaders. Unlike many conquerors of his time, Cyrus did not impose his culture or religion on the peoples he subdued. Instead, he allowed them to retain their traditions, languages, and religious practices. This policy of tolerance was revolutionary for its time and set the Persian Empire apart from other ancient civilizations. The Cyrus Cylinder, a clay artifact discovered in Babylon, is often cited as evidence of his progressive approach. Inscribed with declarations of freedom for enslaved peoples and the restoration of temples, the cylinder has been hailed as an early charter of human rights. However, the controversy lies in interpreting Cyrus's motives. Was his tolerance a genuine expression of respect for human dignity, or was it a calculated move to maintain stability and loyalty within his vast empire? Some historians argue that Cyrus's policies were driven by pragmatism. By allowing conquered peoples to govern themselves and practice their own religions, he minimized resistance and fostered cooperation, making it easier to administer his sprawling empire. This approach not only reduced the costs of occupation, but also strengthened the empire's economic and military foundations. On the other hand, many view Cyrus's actions as a sincere commitment to justice and equality. His decision to free the Jewish exiles in Babylon and support the rebuilding of the temple in Jerusalem is often cited as evidence of his benevolence. This act earned him praise in the Hebrew Bible, where he is referred to as a Messiah or Anointed One. Such gestures suggest that Cyrus may have genuinely believed in the principles of fairness and respect for diverse cultures. The debate over Cyrus's legacy continues to this day. While some see him as a visionary leader who championed human rights centuries before the concept was formally recognized, others argue that his policies were simply a means to an end, designed to consolidate power and ensure the longevity of his empire. Regardless of his motivations, the impact of Cyrus's decisions is undeniable. His approach to governance influenced future empires and set a precedent for the treatment of diverse populations under a single rule. Cyrus the Great's legacy challenges us to consider the complexities of leadership and the fine line between idealism and pragmatism. Was his tolerance a groundbreaking step toward human rights or a masterstroke of political strategy? As we reflect on this pivotal moment in history, we are reminded of the enduring power of leadership to shape the lives of millions. Moving forward, we'll explore another decision that continues to spark debate and shape our understanding of ancient leaders. Now turning to the 23rd controversial decision on our list, we examine one of the most pivotal moments in Roman history, Augustus' transformation of the Roman Republic into an empire. This monumental shift, which marked the end of centuries of republican governance, continues to spark debate over whether it was a necessary reform to stabilize Rome or the death knell of its democratic ideals. Augustus, originally known as Octavian, rose to power after the tumultuous period of civil wars that followed the assassination of Julius Caesar. By the time he emerged victorious, Rome was in chaos, its institutions weakened by decades of internal strife. Augustus' decision to consolidate power and establish the Roman Empire was in many ways a response to this instability. He presented himself as a restorer of peace and order, but his actions fundamentally altered the political landscape of Rome. The controversy lies in whether Augustus' reforms were a necessary step to save Rome from collapse or a calculated move to dismantle the Republic's democratic foundations. On one hand, his reign brought an era of relative peace and prosperity known as the Pax Romana, which lasted for centuries. By centralizing power under his authority, Augustus was able to streamline governance, reduce corruption, and stabilize the economy. His reforms included the creation of a professional civil service, the reorganization of the military, and the establishment of a system of provinces governed by appointed officials. These changes allowed Rome to manage its vast territories more effectively and maintain control over its diverse population. However, critics argue that Augustus' consolidation of power came at the cost of the Republic's democratic principles. The Roman Republic had been founded on the idea of shared governance, with power distributed among elected officials and institutions like the Senate. Augustus, while maintaining the facade of republican traditions, effectively concentrated authority in his own hands. He held multiple titles including princeps or first citizen and imperator or commander-in-chief, which gave him unparalleled control over the state. Over time, the Senate became a symbolic body stripped of its former influence, and the people's role in governance was significantly diminished. The debate over Augustus' legacy is further complicated by the question of his intentions. Did he genuinely believe that a strong, centralized authority was the only way to save Rome, or was he driven by personal ambition? Some historians argue that Augustus saw himself as a necessary figure, stepping in to prevent further chaos and ensure the survival of the Roman state. Others view his actions as a deliberate effort to establish a monarchy in all but name, securing his own power and that of his successors. Regardless of his motives, the impact of Augustus' decision is undeniable. His transformation of the Roman Republic into an empire set the stage for centuries of imperial rule, shaping the course of Western history. It also raises important questions about the balance between stability and freedom, and the trade-offs leaders make in times of crisis. Was Augustus a visionary reformer who saved Rome from itself, or a shrewd politician who ended its democratic experiment? As we reflect on this pivotal moment, we are reminded of the enduring tension between the need for strong leadership and the preservation of democratic ideals. Moving forward, we'll explore another decision that continues to shape our understanding of ancient leaders and their legacies. Now turning to the 24th controversial decision on our list, we delve into a moment that reshaped the religious landscape of the Roman Empire: Theodosius I's ban on paganism and his establishment of Christianity as the empire's official religion. This decision, made in the late 4th century, marked a dramatic shift in the relationship between religion and state, sparking intense debate over its implications for religious freedom and cultural identity. Theodosius I, often referred to as Theodosius the Great, came to power during a time of significant religious and political upheaval. By the late 4th century, Christianity had grown from a persecuted minority faith to a dominant force within the empire. However, traditional pagan practices still held sway among many Romans, particularly in rural areas and among the elite. Theodosius' decision to outlaw paganism and elevate Christianity to the status of the state religion was a bold and controversial move, one that aimed to unify the empire under a single faith but also ignited resistance and division. The controversy surrounding Theodosius' ban lies in its impact on religious diversity and the freedom of worship. For centuries, the Roman Empire had been a melting pot of religions, with paganism, Christianity, Judaism, and various mystery cults coexisting, albeit uneasily at times. Theodosius' edicts, particularly the Edict of Thessalonica in 380, declared Nicene Christianity the sole legitimate religion of the empire and ordered the closure of pagan temples and the cessation of pagan rituals. This marked a dramatic departure from the empire's tradition of religious pluralism and raised questions about the role of the state in regulating faith. The enforcement of these edicts was met with significant resistance, particularly in regions where pagan traditions were deeply entrenched. In some areas, local officials turned a blind eye to continued pagan practices, while in others, the suppression of paganism led to violent clashes and the destruction of temples and sacred sites. Theodosius' decision also alienated segments of the population who viewed paganism as an integral part of Roman identity and culture. For many, the ban represented not just a religious shift but a cultural and political one, as the empire moved away from its polytheistic roots toward a Christian identity. The long-term consequences of Theodosius' decision were profound. By making Christianity the official religion of the empire, he laid the foundation for the close relationship between church and state that would characterize much of European history. However, this move also set a precedent for the persecution of religious minorities and the suppression of dissenting beliefs, a legacy that continues to spark debate among historians and theologians. Was Theodosius' ban a necessary step to unify a fractured empire, or did it represent an overreach of state power that stifled religious freedom and cultural diversity? As we reflect on this pivotal moment, we are reminded of the complex interplay between religion, politics, and identity in shaping the course of history. Theodosius' decision to ban paganism and elevate Christianity remains one of the most controversial acts of ancient leadership, raising enduring questions about the role of faith in governance and the cost of imposing uniformity in a diverse society. Moving forward, we'll explore the final decision on our list, one that brings us back to the sands of ancient Egypt and the legacy of a young pharaoh who sought to restore tradition in the wake of radical change. Now turning to the final and perhaps one of the most intriguing decisions on our list, we journey back to ancient Egypt to explore the reign of Tutankhamun and his controversial reversal of his father Akhenaten's radical religious reforms. This decision, made by a young pharaoh thrust into power, marked a dramatic return to tradition and reshaped the spiritual and political landscape of Egypt. Tutankhamun, often remembered as the Boy King, ascended to the throne at the tender age of 9 following the death of his father Akhenaten. Akhenaten had initiated one of the most sweeping religious revolutions in Egyptian history, abandoning the traditional polytheistic worship of many gods in favor of the exclusive veneration of Aten, the sun disk. This shift not only disrupted centuries of religious practice but also alienated powerful priesthoods and destabilized the empire. By the time Tutankhamun took the throne, Egypt was in a state of turmoil, with its economy weakened and its people divided. Tutankhamun's decision to reverse his father's reforms was both a political and religious necessity. Restoring the worship of Amun-Ra and the traditional pantheon of gods was a calculated move to regain the support of the powerful priesthood of Thebes, who had been sidelined during Akhenaten's reign. This decision also aimed to reunify the fractured Egyptian society, as many citizens had clung to their traditional beliefs despite Akhenaten's efforts to impose monotheism. Tutankhamun's restoration of polytheism was not merely a return to the old ways, but a strategic effort to stabilize his rule and restore Egypt's cultural and religious identity. The impact of Tutankhamun's decision was profound. Temples that had been closed or neglected under Akhenaten were reopened and restored, and the priesthood regained its influence and wealth. This shift also revitalized the economy, as the temples were central to trade, agriculture, and the redistribution of resources. However, the reversal was not without controversy. Some historians argue that Tutankhamun's actions were driven more by the influence of his advisors, particularly Ai and Horemheb, than by his own convictions. Others suggest that the young pharaoh may have genuinely sought to heal the divisions caused by his father's radical policies. The legacy of Tutankhamun's decision is complex. While his reign was short-lived, his restoration of traditional Egyptian religion laid the groundwork for the eventual erasure of Akhenaten's reforms from history. Akhenaten's name and achievements were systematically removed from monuments and records, a process known as damnatio memoriae, ensuring that his religious revolution would be remembered as a brief and disruptive interlude. Tutankhamun's actions, though controversial, helped to re-establish the continuity of Egyptian culture and religion, preserving a system that had endured for millennia. As we conclude our exploration of these 25 controversial decisions by ancient leaders, we are reminded of the delicate balance between innovation and tradition, power and belief, and the enduring impact of leadership on the course of history. Each of these decisions, from Nero's persecution of Christians to Tutankhamun's restoration of polytheism, offers a window into the complexities of ancient governance and the timeless debates over the role of leaders in shaping society. Which of these decisions do you find most fascinating or controversial? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more deep dives into history's most intriguing mysteries. Now turning to the conclusion of our journey through these 25 controversial decisions by ancient leaders, we are left with a profound appreciation for the complexities of leadership and the enduring impact of their choices. From Nero's alleged role in the Great Fire of Rome to Tutankhamun's reversal of his father's religious reforms, each decision offers a unique glimpse into the challenges and dilemmas faced by those who shaped the ancient world. These leaders, whether driven by ambition, necessity, or conviction, made choices that continue to spark debate and inspire reflection centuries later. The legacy of these decisions is not confined to the past. They remind us of the delicate balance between power and morality, innovation and tradition, and the far-reaching consequences of leadership. Whether it was Alexander the Great's attempt to merge cultures through the mass wedding at Susa or Constantine's legalization of Christianity, each decision left an indelible mark on history, influencing the course of empires and the lives of countless individuals. As we reflect on these stories, we are invited to consider the complexities of leadership in our own time. What lessons can we draw from the triumphs and missteps of these ancient figures? Which of their decisions do you find most intriguing or controversial? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your perspective. If you enjoyed this deep dive into history's most debated moments, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more fascinating explorations of historical mysteries. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the past, and we look forward to uncovering more stories with you in the future. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep discovering the incredible tapestry of human history.